On today's episode of Refashioned, we're discussing the apparent death of fashion's supposedly biggest night of the year, the Met Gala, which people are now saying has lost all sense of relevancy now that fashion has taken a backseat to Bezos's ego and big tech's funding. And of course, we can't really discuss the Met Gala this year without talking about how Anna Wintour has taken a backseat and now seems to be engaging in a battle between cementing her legacy and proving her relevancy, especially since she's now taken it upon herself to become the marketing child of the Devil Wears Prada sequel, which I haven't seen yet, but I do still want to discuss before I go ahead and see it, hopefully this week, and talk about some of the insane marketing that's gone into this promo tour and some of the decisions in the movie itself. There's other things that I want to talk about happening in fashion that I think are important, like that Emma Chamberlain editorial, but also the brand taunting Lululemon with some creative copyright. And of course, I'm going to take you through some of the TikToks I've found randomly while scrolling, because that's what we always do. As always, there's a lot to get through for this episode, so we just need to get into it. Before we do, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi, my name's Katie. This is Refashioned, the podcast that talks about fashion, politics, sustainability, culture, ties it all up and analyzes it together in a neat bow. If that sounds good to you, then make sure you subscribe wherever you're watching this on, and you follow me on whatever social media you're on too, because I tend to share exclusive content on every platform, including exclusive to the podcast episodes, which I don't think many of my subscribers know about, but I've been releasing more and more because I find them so fun. So make sure you are subscribed to the podcast and not just follow along just on YouTube, because you will miss out on bonus episodes. And with that, let's get into the first topic, which is of course the event happening in a couple of hours when this episode comes out, the Met Gala. And the main question I have for this entire event, which is, does anyone care it's happening? I do think we may be witnessing the death of the Met Gala this year. Granted, it's kind of been a little bit of a slow death. I think interest has been waning these past couple of years, even as they lean further into the spectacle of the celebrities and the social media buzz that hypes all of these kind of events. It's just been increasingly becoming out of touch. And although I was excited when I first saw the theme for this year, fashion as art, costume design, that almost immediately went away when I swiped to the last page of the announcement and saw who was sponsoring this event. Because if you don't know, this is a Amazon funded event. Bezos and his wife Lauren will be there. Anna Wintour has stepped back from her role in chairing this event, just as she stepped back from her role as editor-in-chief. And we've been left with something that just doesn't feel relevant anymore. Now, that may be premature to say, given that the event is still hours away from happening, but the court of public opinion does seem made up on this fact. There is still people talking about it, still people speculating, and I think a large part of that is due to how good the theme is this year. But it also feels like the commentary is very much can't look away from a car crash rather than excitement about what we actually might get. And I have it on very good authority that there's going to be some major protests. I'm pretty sure I'm not breaking a press embargo here when I say that Greenpeace contacted me directly confirming they were going to protest for the event. I mean, Greenpeace hasn't exactly been covert about the idea that they're going to be protesting this. I've seen tons of protesting billboards going up on social media where they seem to be prepping this campaign already before the event. So I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get in trouble for confirming it beforehand. And it's not just the public and environmental groups that have made statements. We had the mayor of New York, Mandami, say that he was definitely not going to the event, that his political beliefs mean that he can't exactly attend an event being funded by one of the biggest billionaires on the planet. And I think given the Mandami's it couple status this year, this was quite a big public blowback that I don't think the Bezoses would have been expecting. Brands are apparently worried that this year's Met Gala feels politically charged, and there's been some reluctance there. I think also there's been some reluctance amongst celebrities and some saying they're going to boycott or just not go. And I kind of want to know, are we even going to be watching this year? Do you think celebrities that are going are worried about the optics of being seen going to the Bezos Met Gala? I mean, the Met Gala has never been a shining beacon of ethics, but the elitism on display this year seems particularly crass given the sponsor, given the state of the world, given everything happening in fashion right now. The event was never accessible, but tickets for this year apparently went up from $75,000 to $100,000. for a single ticket. That's obviously a huge inflation to us as individuals, but I think even fashion brands will be second guessing this price increase given the state of this year, given the vulnerability of the industry, given the public reaction so far to this Met Gala. I think they'll be weighing up if it's worth it or not. Dressing a celebrity in their clothes for a red carpet that people might not be watching this year is a risky strategy only a few brands can afford now. And maybe that's why this year is being dubbed the Tech Gala. OpenAI, Meta, and Snapchat have all been confirmed as table sponsors, which is exactly as it sounds. A brand will sponsor an entire table at the event and then get to invite, I think, about 8 celebrities to their table, pay for their ticket, pay for their meals, and basically get them as the face of the brand, all for the low price of $350,000. That price tag for the riskiest Met Gala potentially in history makes it no wonder that apparently brands willing to sponsor are thin on the ground, and why reportedly ticket prices had to be slashed in the weeks coming up to the event because there was just no demand. I mean, it's hard not to understand why when Bezos's Met Gala seems as far from the original purpose of the event as possible. It might just sound like a ruined night for fashion. You know, maybe we don't get the big red carpet fanfare that we love to see on Twitter, the debates about who was best dressed, the brand that won the night, but it's actually quite concerning to a lot of people that big tech is infiltrating the event like this. It's more of a millionaire's playground than ever now, and we're getting less cultural relevancy while also having tech billionaires thrust in our faces. Like, who cares if Mark Zuckerberg is on a red carpet? And at first glance, it makes absolutely no sense about why tech is playing this game, what they think is going to happen here. It's not like OpenAI is a fashion house that will benefit from having their designs shown on the red carpet. So who really cares if they sponsored a table? Is anyone going to actually know that they're the sponsors beyond tonight? And yet they're still willing to fund the event. They still want their names attached to it. And I want to talk about why I think that's happening. Actually, I want to talk about why Amy Odell thinks this is happening. She thinks that this bizarre and unwelcome infiltration of big tech into fashion's night of the year is a transparent effort to integrate AI with the female audience, who are the best audience if CEOs want to make AI profitable by turning it into a shopping platform, by monetizing and commercializing their technology. And that makes complete sense to me. I mean, as we know, people are speculating AI is a bubble. Companies are hemorrhaging money. There's not much profitability in it yet, as far as I understand. And brands are desperately trying to integrate shopping into their platforms. That's why we've seen a lot of shoppable features roll out on these platforms in the past couple of months, because they know shopping is profitability. They know the power behind consumerism. And if they can get their female base accepting AI into their shopping routines, then they know they can feed that influencer culture and consumerism on social media into their own platforms. They have a business model. It's just really quite demoralizing to see something that has such relevancy in the fashion community degraded into a billionaire tech party. So again, I think the question is, will you be watching or not? Because I don't think I will. I think I'm probably going to stay away from all the internet discussion, red carpet drama, manufactured memes that inevitably come out of this event because they're being pushed to make it seem like more than it was. And we'll see what happens with the next one, maybe. Okay, moving on to the next topic. Kind of a throwback to my most recent video, which was, 3 weeks ago. Sorry, my schedule's been all over the place. If I haven't said it enough on the channel, I'm getting married soon, and that has taken top priority over everything else. So yeah, apologies for the lack of posting. But I did do a video kind of recently about analog fashion and how this whole trend has kind of had very strong repercussions for the fashion industry and consumerism. And as always with a video, I put it out and then I see something that I wish I could have included later on. The most recent example of this is the girl that started documenting her style journey now that she's no longer relying on Instagram and Pinterest. Have we seen this girl? Have all our algorithms brought us the same girl in an ironic twist of fate? I've been following her journey, and although it's only been a week or two, I'm very interested to see where it goes. I'm very curious to see how long it will take to see a difference, because obviously right at the beginning, there's a lot of algorithmic influence that you can see. Like, for example, the most recent one I watched, she was wearing kitten heels, which are slated to become a big big summer trend this year. And yeah, I just wonder how much she can get away from the algorithm when she's still posting online, when she's still posting her own content. I have to say, I do love the formatting of this. I know it's not a radical concept. Obviously, so many of us don't rely on Instagram and Pinterest for when we get dressed in the morning. But I think there's something powerful every time I see a movement like this started on social media, because I think romanticizing it in this way is exactly what people need to see on social media to pick it up themselves. Like, the people that see this as a normal thing are not the people that need to see this message. And I think it is a good message to spread, especially in an aesthetic way that rivals the hauls and the new outfits of the day that typically go viral. Even if the irony of the algorithm spreading this message is pretty hard to ignore. I am taking bets on what brand goes completely tone deaf and sends her a full outfit for her to promote in one of these videos. My bets is on Miu Miu, but I think we need to set up a little poll here. Okay, moving swiftly on, we need to talk about the Emma Chamberlain editorial with Vogue Portugal. For one thing, I think this is monumental that a fashion YouTuber has gotten to the point of being on the cover of one of Vogue's best publications, in my opinion. And not only on the cover, but an amazing cover. Like, this is fashion as art, which seems to be the theme of this year. And not only is it a good editorial, it's also proof that the it girl thing is now to have an arty weird girl editorial to your name. I'm very curious about this fascination going on in fashion right now with birds and feathers. It's also got the noticeable grungy themes we've come to expect, like the cheeky sig, the dark, crazy makeup, the religious themes that seem to be slowly creeping back into fashion as well, and something we might need to watch out for as a trend. I think, in short, this editorial feels very defining of the cultural zeitgeist right now, and maybe that's why it stood out so much, down to the blurriness and the movement in the photos and how it really paints Emma as more than an influencer. And I wonder if even the clean models that we see are going to start demanding an edgier editorial. I wonder if this is going to become the new status symbol, if it already hasn't with the Ramadouaji cut editorial too. I think the resurgence of editorials in general in fashion is very exciting right now. I think the power of the editorial is something we've been missing. And maybe it's because of the renewed interest in physical media or the rejection of AI, but I think this arty, cool girl editorial is the way fashion media is going to go, at least in the short term, because it seems to have that interest they can capitalize on. Because I've seen a lot of positive buzz online about Emma's cover, despite the fact that Vogue as an institution has been coming under a lot of fire lately. Granted, Vogue Portugal and some of the international titles weren't the main enemy in the first place. Speaking of Vogue, what is up with the Devil Wears Prada and Anna Wintour? It feels like every time I do a podcast episode now, I'm finding another link between fashion and Hollywood getting into bed together, and the Devil Wears Prada sequel is no exception. In fact, I think it might be the pinnacle example of this happening so far, including all the ones I've mentioned in that video I did exploring this topic. And a big reason I think that is that apparently, unlike the first film, where it was kind of operating on the edges of the industry, where it was kind of stepping on toes, where it didn't have much collaboration opportunities because people didn't want to get involved with the slight negative portrayal going on of the fashion industry, brands have apparently been clamoring over themselves to get involved with this sequel. Apparently they were turning designers down, citing that they needed to think about what handbags would actually make sense in the movie as an excuse to not include every single person who offered them. And unlike the unspoken presence Anna Wintour had in the first movie, the Miranda Priestley character, the hostile offices of the fake fashion magazine, this time we've had plenty of promo of Anna herself getting involved in marketing this movie. And not just marketing, but consulting on set. There was one story that came out of a moment of her being on set and correcting the production team, saying that Dior not only wouldn't have so many flowers in their boardroom, but they would be white, not pink. And that led production to change the set entirely. And that level of cooperation going on is both insane to me and makes me not want to go see the film. Anna's influence is only off screen. She doesn't appear in the film, apparently, although there is said to be a cameo in a bonus deleted scene that might come out later. But reportedly, there's a million other cameos of fashion's insiders popping up on screen all the time during the film. Part of me wonders if it's too close to the fashion industry to actually be enjoyable. That's obviously my opinion without seeing it, but I don't think I could fully immerse myself in the movie knowing I'm just waiting for the next familiar face to pop up and be awkwardly shoved into a script just so they can have their face on there for a minute. And I kind of wonder if this is what they wanted to do with the movie, why they didn't just make it more of a mockumentary style and have the characters immerse themselves in an actual fashion event where fashion people could play themselves around Miranda Priestly and Andy Sachs and have that be the thing instead. I just wonder how a film that did so well the first time in accurately portraying the realities of the fashion industry and the downsides to the job can do that again while simultaneously being pandered to by brands who want to be included and by influencers who want to get their names in it. Because I know the accuracies of Andy's job in the first film. I've worked a job like that. I know what that kind of office environment is like, what the fashion industry can be like at times. But I don't think we could have got that iconic Miranda Andy dynamic that we had in the first film if Anna Wintour had been so involved in that first production. There's no way they would have risked irritating Anna at the height of her popularity like that. And in 2026, when we know that Hollywood is so contingent on big fashion for funding and for sponsorships and for getting their movie stars dressed for the red carpet, it's even less likely that they're going to say or do something in the movie that paints fashion in a realistically bad light. And yeah, okay, I know it's a fun fashion movie and you can just go there and watch it and not care about how realistic it is. But if we're not getting that honesty, that reality, alongside the romanticism and the character plots, then are we not just signing up to watch a 120-minute advert for big fashion? However, interestingly, I did see one thread post that disappeared way too quickly for me to save, unfortunately, that suggested that the film deals with enshittification of the fashion industry quality. And I am quite curious to see that, I have to say. I've also heard from a reliable source that there are disparaging comments about Coach. And that's another point in its favour. So my mind's still not entirely made up about whether I'm going to go see it or not. I'm curious if you guys are, if you've seen it, what your takeaways were. Maybe don't do spoilers in the comments, try talk around it a little bit. But I have seen equally praising and negative reviews from fashion people, from non-fashion people. So I'm curious what my audience thinks. I mean, speaking of Anna, because she has been connected to two big talking points happening in fashion this month, the movie, the Met Gala. I'm seeing a lot of discussions online about her legacy, and reportedly that's a big thing on her mind too. Apparently she's currently filming for a documentary which is supposed to cement her legacy. I haven't seen much information about this, but I think it's kind of interesting because a lot of people are talking about her role in fashion, about who might be her successor. Obviously, there was all that discussion about Chloe Mal stepping up while she stepped down, the tension between the two women. I've also seen some other posts online talking about whether it will be someone in a traditional media role, whether it might be an influencer. And it kind of just got me thinking about what Anna represented, about whether we actually do need another Anna Wintour and whether anyone can actually be as big as her in today's landscape. I think it boils down to the discussion that's been happening a lot in 2026 about taste and about curation. And I actually had a video that I started collecting thoughts and research for back at the end of last year, intending to do a whole video on this topic. But then as the discourse around it exploded, I figured maybe it had been talked about too much. But I think it's relevant again now because of this succession drama with Anna and her legacy. Because for one thing, the discussions between Anna Wintour's Met Gala and Lauren Bezos's Met Gala is being reduced down to taste in a lot of the online conversations about how Anna's gala represented a kind of coolness that not a lot of people could manufacture, whilst Lauren's has been likened to a cheap Amazon party. Obviously, Anna is credited as having made the Met Gala what it is today, with having made Vogue what it is today. She has major actors like Meryl Streep cementing her reputation by making a character of her for a Devil Wears Prada film. She, at the peak of her power, had a reputation for being able to make or break someone's career based on just whether she personally liked them or not. And I think that kind of idealization of one person just simply can't exist in the social media algorithm right now. So the idea of Anna's successor is just a doomed concept from the start, because there simply isn't that much power to hand over to one person anymore. The algorithm doesn't work in the same way that being the editor-in-chief of Vogue did. It's much more democratic. It's built around newness and novelty rather than experience and credentials. And yet people are still fixated on this idea of Anna having a successor. And I think a lot of people are reluctant to give up that role of having someone be the Anna Wintour of fashion, because there's so much uncertainty right now about what is cool. We're subject to the algorithm's whims, we're subject to AI slop taking over, and we're subject to an inundation of options. And that kind of naturally makes us want to have clarification from someone about what is worth listening to and what isn't. And I think the obvious prediction to me is that we're not going to have one person that becomes the next Anna Wintour, that becomes the person on the pedestal that we all listen to. But the influencer economy will slowly start shifting into this kind of editor-in-chief role of people's worlds, if that makes sense. And we've already started to see it, right? We've started to see people referencing their credentials before they start recommending us stuff. And I think that's going to work to an extent, but I also still think social media as the platform is what's going to hinder one person gaining too much power over everyone. I read this thought in a Substack actually that I really agree with. I think it's really relevant here. A culture without editors is not more democratic, it's simply harder to argue with. And perhaps that is why, in a moment defined by endless content and vanishing standards, the fantasy of the gatekeeper returns not as a ruler, but as someone willing to decide and to be wrong in public. I have so many thoughts still about this topic, about Anna herself. I still want to do that video. So if you guys do want to hear it, then maybe let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll wait till Anna comes out with this documentary, because I do think she is the example of the curator in fashion. Maybe not justifiably so, but in terms of recognizability of one woman's influence on the fashion industry. If you know fashion, you know Anna. Okay, last thing before we wrap the podcast up, because we've been talking a while. I have to tell you guys about a fun thing I did in this last month. And that was go to a yoga class to celebrate a brand's launch. Or, as I should say, a fake brand's launch. Mumulemon was the brand I was there for. And they were created to directly call out Lululemon for their fossil fuel supply chain, which they've been dodging calls to change for years now. And it is a serious problem. I mean, Lululemon made $11 billion in revenue last year, and at the same time, their greenhouse gas emissions went up 14%. And Mumulemon chose to call this out by building a fake brand with products inspired by Lulu's designs, but made with renewable energy and natural fibers instead. Their supply chain workers were paid a living wage, their factory was powered by wind and solar energy, and they even developed a plan to fully electrify their supply chain by 2040. And to spread this campaign, they rented a store in London, invited a ton of influencers down to do a yoga class, showcased their designs with Mumulemon on the front, and basically invited Lulu to sue them for it. And I mean, props to the Action Speaks Louder team for basically forcing Lululemon to acknowledge something they've been trying to dodge for years now, especially considering the fact that the brand is probably already contemplating a switch from their polyester heavy products to more natural ones, because that's where the trend is going and what more people want to see in their products anyway. And they would probably turn this into a sustainability move without ever having to mention that fossil fuel supply chain. Except now, everyone's gonna know about it anyway. Actually, going to this event was really fun. It was my first ever in-person yoga class since I'm kind of a strictly YouTube yogi. And I really, really enjoyed it. It inspired me to go down to a couple of other in-person yoga classes. So this was the perfect setup for me. And thanks to the Action Speaks Louder team for inviting me. Okay, we're on to the last segment of the podcast, my favorite bit, which is the reading, watching, listening segment, where I try to convince you guys to give me recommendations for what to read, watch and listen by telling you what I'm doing first. So we'll start with watching, and I have been watching The Pit with my fiance. I have to say, I'm struggling a little bit at the graphicness, but it's been really good. I really enjoy the storytelling aspect. I hate to report that I had to give up on American Love Story after, I think, 3 episodes. I just didn't get on with it very well. I didn't find the story that interesting, or the production that interesting, I should say, maybe, despite the hype online. So yeah, that was kind of a disappointing one for me. Reading, I've been reading this book called Annihilation. I think I picked it up because I wanted to read another French author after reading The Count of Monte Cristo at the end of last year, and I wasn't expecting to enjoy it this much, but it's been really good, and kind of relevant actually. I don't want to spoil it, and I don't want to spoil it for myself by inviting people to tell me what it's actually about, because I am so close to finishing. And actually another thing I've been, meaning to read, getting to read, is some more fashion magazines, and I got sent this by the Mildew team, so thank you guys for sending me this. I want to do a YouTube video reviewing and recommending fashion magazines, but I need you guys to send in suggestions for that, so please put them in the comments below. I did already do an Instagram poll and get a few out, but yeah, this is on my list for that video. Maybe I'll include the Vogue Portugal one simply for the Emma Chamberlain editorial. And then listening, I have been obviously devouring Noah Kahan's new album. Obviously. Also, Joy by Ray has gone triple platinum in this household. My fiance is sick of it because I do tend to get hyperfixated on one or two songs and play them to death, but I just love how that song makes me feel. So yeah, they've been kind of my repeats recently. I saw a few of you, more than a few of you, followed that playlist I recommended in the last episode of the podcast, which is super cute. I can share when I do a new one if you guys are interested. And yeah, I think with that, that's everything I had to mention in this podcast. Before we go, UK listeners and viewers of the podcast, really important reminder that this week is our local elections, and you should get out and vote, because it might be only local elections, but it's an important one, especially in the run-up to the general election in the next couple of years. So please do go out and vote on Thursday. It does make a difference, even if it's just for your local council. And yeah, with that, I hope you guys have such a lovely day, and I speak to you all really soon. Okay, bye guys.